It's Friday night, which means it's time for another episode of the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast. I'm Ashli.
And I'm Casey. Last time we watched our 7th episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, getting further along in this incredible show, and we are, as we've said before, watching the entire thing every other week.
And in this episode, we saw a lot of the spirit world, so we put out our weekly Twitter poll asking, would you keep a spirit monster as a pet? 73% of you guys said yes, and only 27% of you said no, which I said yes, but in actuality, I don't know that I would. It just sounded like the right thing to say.
Yeah, it's a bit of a risk, that's for sure. I also voted yes, but it's like if you really pin me on it, if you're like, all right, here's the down payment, it's coming into your apartment next week, I would be like, now, wait a minute.
Yeah. But it sounds exciting, right?
It does.
Right.
And apparently our listeners agreed with us.
Yeah, I think that's another one of those kind of simpler, really not too deep of a pull there, not too much to discuss on that one.
Right. This week we're discussing the final Fairly Oddparents episode, at least the final produced one. I'm realizing now that it was not the final one that aired, but neither of them really wrap up the series. So if anything, we're just getting a look at the last leg of the show and talking about how it changed over time and just giving it a little bit of a post-mortem as a show in general.
Yeah, I mean, it ran for 10 seasons, so that's, not too shabby.
Not at all. And it was canceled 5 times, which I didn't know till
That's
now.
Wild, honestly.
So
wild ride with this show.
So we very well may not have seen the last of it either.
That's true. Could always come back. You never know. After 5 times, can it really definitively be final? Who knows? With that, though, be sure to follow us on Twitter at FNN_podcast and Facebook.com/FNN podcast, and review us on Apple Podcasts so others can find the show. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube page. We've got a lot of good community growing up there for our Avatar watch-through, so lots of fun there, too.
Yeah, so this will be a super quick episode. We don't have a ton to talk about, and I'm way up in the Catskills. Those of you who are with us for We're in Between, you may remember Mambo in the Catskills, the musical in As Told by Ginger. That's where I am. We are off the grid. We do not have Wi-Fi, so I'm in this, conservatory-type building where we do have Wi-Fi, but we're not here for long, so we're going to crank this one out. With that being said, thanks so much for tuning in. Now let's get started.
From the Nicktoons Animation Studio in Hollywood. Hollywood.
Alright, like Casey said, this is from Fairly Oddparents. It's entitled Fancy Schmancy. Season 10, Episode 20, kind of A, kind of B, produced last. Originally aired February 1st, 2017, so decent while ago now.
Yeah, I didn't realize the show had been off the air so long, but in this one, Timmy's dad and Chloe's parents don't allow the children to celebrate Friends Day together due to social differences, and really more due to class differences, and there's some overlap there, obviously, but and not even class differences, just money, Timmy's dad comes into some money, and of course it immediately becomes a way for him to feel better than other people, which is hilarious. Also, what happened to Timmy's mom?
She's there. They show her for at least a hot second, because remember, she's in that bubble with all the money.
Yes, that's true. Okay, I was worried they killed her off or something. Could you imagine?
No. Oh, God. No, you didn't see the funeral episode? It was one of the more controversial along the way, but yeah, so we start off with the theme, which we all know how I feel about that, or maybe you don't. It's been a long time since we've covered this, but I don't like the new theme. It doesn't do it for me, but we don't need to drag on about that now.
Yeah, it's not great.
I will say the animation looks beautiful, though. They really have upped the quality of that throughout the years.
Yeah, and it's flash animation now, which shows it feels a little like a computer game at times, but the colors are so much more striking, and the outlines are really clear. It looks different. It's more crisp. There's less 3D detail than before, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But
it does
what do
work.
we know about animation?
But, and another thing that I kind of liked to see, and I'm kind of not curious enough to go through and watch the whole thing, but I was kind of interested to see how this developed, because the last episode we watched, I think, was the first time that Chloe showed up, or somewhere near there, and Timmy and Chloe did not get along at all. And in this one, they're celebrating their best friend's day, their 3-year friendiversary. They're genuine. At first, I thought maybe Chloe was just really into this friend's day thing, but then Timmy calls her his best friend later, and I'm like, oh, no, this is an actual development here. Good to know.
Yeah, so it was interesting. Like, they're clearly upset at being separated, even though the theme song is still playing into the shtick of, like, oh no, Timmy doesn't like her, this is annoying. And that's, like, not what this episode is about at all.
Yeah, that's kind of where I thought it was going to go, and I was glad to see at least a new tone.
Yeah.
I was glad to see that they switched that up.
Yeah, totally, because in the last episode we saw, Timmy can't stand Chloe because she's perfect, She's giving, she's using her wishes to solve social problems, she's everything Timmy isn't.
Yeah, she's still not my favorite character by any means. She's a little too over the top on the, like, look how perfectly good I am, like... I don't remember. They were talking about getting, like, I don't even remember what it was. Some kind of a snack, and she was talking about how she would rather have the healthier snack. And it's just a little too, like, I don't know, literal all the time, maybe. But...
Right. Yeah, she's a little show, not tell, from what we've seen of her, at least. But the Turners immediately becoming condescending the second they're rich is so perfect to me. Timmy's dad, like, literally takes, like... He, like, dips himself in gold, and he's, like, gold-coated for the rest of the episode. So, that was, like, the only thing that got an actual laugh out of me the whole episode.
Yeah, and that absolutely is how they would react to falling into money, too. They would be terrible. I buy that completely. I'm realizing there's not really a wish in this episode, is there?
No. He does wish that, like, he asks Cosmo to... Did they, like, disguise Chloe to, like, get her into the house, right?
Right, but it's not
Yeah, there's
like...
no big wishes. It's just to solve the problem at hand, which I appreciate, because how many episodes have we seen where, like, the wish is the entire plot of the episode? This has nothing to do with wishes. They might as well not have Fairly Oddparents in this episode.
Yeah, I'm just realizing it now. Like, at first I was like, yeah, it's got the parents acting like they normally do, whatever, but yeah, it's really not your standard... Here's a big wish, because I was going to say, oh, I'm realizing they don't end it with Control-Z, but there's not even anything to Control-Z.
Right. And, right. Well, they also, Cosmo has been so flanderized at this point. Like, he's unrecognizable to the, like, low-voiced, funny, but, like, smart, in a smart way that Cosmo was. And, like, yeah, he's funnier when he's dumber, of course, but, like, you picture back even to season 1, I'm not just talking about the Oh Yeah cartoons, but you think back to, like, early Fairly Oddparents, and he's, like, kind of whiny and annoying, but he uses big words. It's very similar to what happened to Patrick Star.
Yeah, it really is, and we have this... Another thing that I feel like happens in both of these is that they make a joke that's kind of funny, and they talk about Weird Owl, because... Chloe really loves owls. She wants to see literally every owl, whatever, sure. And so instead of Weird Owl, they have Weird Owl. And they bring this joke up like 5 more times.
Yeah, it's too much.
And they just really overdo it. And I've noticed that a few times as the series progressed too, where it's like, oh, that's kind of funny, owl instead of owl. Chuckle. And then I'm like, okay, it, like, wasn't that funny to begin with, and now it's very not funny.
Exactly. And, like, they could have at least had Weird Al voice the owl,
Yeah. Or, like, they also didn't come up with, like, that clever of puns either. It was like, owl I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and Cosmo's like, owls don't even have front teeth. So, yeah, very low-hanging fruit. And has nothing to do with anything in the episode.
Yeah, it's just kind of there. And again, if they just had the one throwaway comment, I would have been like, not too bad. But, man, like, they just sometimes it feels like they're running out of jokes.
Yes.
And they're just like,
especially after
bring up
10
that owl
years.
one again.
Yeah. Especially after 10 seasons. And one other thing I wanted, I wish Cosmo and Wanda had split up with them, where each went to one kid. That would have been more interesting. It's Cosmo and Wanda. Like, you would see, like, maybe Cosmo and Timmy, and they just have bad ideas. And Wanda and Chloe, and they actually find a way to get in the house. Like, I think that's a much stronger episode than Cosmo and Wanda staying with Timmy the whole time.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense either. If there's a fairy shortage, you'd think they would just split them up instead of Timmy getting both. But, look,
Yeah.
Um,
It's around this point that I realized there's not a true finale of the show at all. I thought there would be some closure in this episode because it's about Timmy and Chloe and their friendship. So I thought it would feel like a finale, but it's really not. It's the episode resolves and there's nothing deeper than that.
yeah, and really the resolution is kind of weird. They have this, the country club that Chloe's not allowed in, and then they have this crazy Catwoman take over it, and that's really the gist of it there. Again, there's no real wishes involved. They just kind of do it.
Was that Charity?
I did. Yeah,
the neighbor,
Charity.
which was kind of funny. They're like, Chloe's parents are like, we give all our money to Charity, the crazy cat lady neighbor. It's like a kind of lazy joke, but...
But it works, you know. There's also, so in the country club beforehand, there's a hot tub of mac and cheese, and I just cringed really hard at the thought of that. Like, I do not want to swim in and eat anything, you know? Like, I don't know. Maybe as a kid it would have sounded good, but, like, I feel like the stickiness of mac and cheese is also not very swimmable. I don't know.
Well, and hot tubs are already so gross, so, like, add in the mac and cheese element.
But, you know, that's my one quick comment there that really stuck with me. Other than that, it's a pretty basic episode, you know. Nothing really crazy happens. We do kind of get these two different sides between Timmy's and Chloe's parents, and I don't think we saw Chloe's parents in the last episode we did with her.
No, we didn't, which was interesting because they seem like good people, but they're working hard to get by, and they're not like poor either. They're like
no,
like they exaggerate things. Like they have a car, but then his dad is on top, like blowing a sail to make the car move. Kind of Flintstones type physical gag.
Yeah. Well, plus there's the whole deal of you know, Timmy's dad flooded, or are they not even in water? Is he just doing that above ground?
No, there was water.
Because Timmy's dad did flood the whole street to make their house into a lake house. So that was a thing.
Which is again just the classic selfishness. Like Timmy's parents are textbook narcissists.
And I still love them. I still think they're well done. Mm-hmm. I think they're the one thing that stayed relatively consistent throughout.
Yeah, even last time I remember us commenting, like, well, at least the parents are still funny.
Yes. And that stays true. There's really not a whole lot else I want to say. I do want to kind of just say, you know, it's a little sad to see the show go, but I do think we can kind of see just by this and by the last one we talked about that it was about time, right? That there wasn't really a whole lot left for this show to say. It definitely had more than enough time to get all of their ideas out. We kind of saw that with they brought in the dog, and they brought in Poof, and they brought in... Which, do we ever hear where Poof's at?
No. I totally forgot. Yeah,
just thinking for a second. Sorry.
Where did Poof go? Just searched that.
Because that was like a literal child that's...
Yeah.
You'd think Cosmo and Wanda would still care about. I don't know. Moral of the story, the show had more than a few gimmicks that it kind of went through to keep it alive, and I'm okay with it being done.
So, Poof doesn't grow up. Oh, well, apparently in the live-action movie, he does speak for the first time, and he has Randy Jackson's voice with, like, a bunch of slang. That's kind of hilarious.
That's something.
Yeah, I don't see what happened with... And then there was Sparky, the dog, but they don't interact much. Yeah, I just had never really followed this show much after its, glory years.
Yeah, on the wiki it says, while Poof was absent from the beginning of season 10, the reason being to prevent too many characters from being in one episode, he returns in one episode in season 10. So
okay.
Doesn't really matter. I was just kind of realizing, like, how much they did not commit to that.
Right, that's true. Yeah, they were just shuffling around concepts, yeah. But yeah, it was a great show. I don't particularly miss it. Like, we don't need new episodes, but, knowing Butch Hartman, I'm sure he's trying, so...
Yeah, and... Yeah, I'm satisfied with calling this one good. We'll definitely still go back and revisit some of the older episodes, I'm sure, of Fairly Oddparents from its heyday, but I really feel like we've seen enough of Chloe for my taste.
Yep. Yeah, it was sort of bittersweet for me. It felt a little like taking the show off life support. It's just like, all right, that was pretty hard to watch, but I'm glad I did it. But it's, not the greatest episode, honestly. In fact, I'd say it's one of the worst episodes we've watched all year, if I'm being honest. But
Yeah, which sounds harsh on its deathbed here, but
Right.
It also happened over a year ago, so
Yeah.
I don't think any of you fans are too hurt over it at this point, and I think most of the original fans too are not too devastated after
yeah.
the whole Chloe thing happened. I think people were pretty salty.
And after 5 cancellations, too, which I'm
Right.
sure explains why they kept changing the formula, because they were just like, well, we got to try something new this time around. First it was Poof,
Yeah.
then it was Sparky, then it was Chloe. But in my head, Channel
Yeah, but,
Chasers will always be the real finale, because it is the canonical end game of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's agreed. It finishes it off well. We kind of see Timmy growing up, and it's maybe a little bit of a darker ending than
Right.
we'd want, but still.
But it can still be true, even with everything that's happened. Like, maybe him and Chloe just drifted apart, or maybe she's still in his life. Who knows?
That's true. We only see him for like 20 seconds before he leaves for work,
Right.
So
But, if they had to
nothing's
forget...
canceled out.
You wonder what happened if they have to forget the Fairly Oddparents.
That's true.
If they remember each other, they must.
I would think they would. I would think they would just not remember that that's why they spent time together,
Yeah.
right? They would, the memory removal's a little bit blurry, but...
Sure.
All right. On that note, are we good to move on forward?
Let's do it. All right, everyone, our Twitter poll this week is, would you rather have Timmy or Chloe's parents? Timmy's are far more entertaining, while Chloe's seem a bit more practical. Neither seem great.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot more about Timmy's parents. Maybe Chloe's parents have a few more episodes, so it's hard to say for sure. We definitely know that Timmy's parents have a bit of narcissism going on there, for sure, so interested to see. Maybe those of you who have seen more than we did know that Chloe's parents are the best things ever, the worst things ever, so feel free to comment at us and let us know why as well. Next week, we'll be talking about the 8th episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, continuing on with our watch. Always excited for that. That's also the second half of the winter solstice, so good stuff.
Yeah, looking forward to getting back to that. We got all our social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, so keep up with us on all of those.
And with that, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.